Hi, hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome, everyone. I know I'm sharing my screen, so I don't have access to the chat, but if as you join, you want to say hi, say where you're calling in from, would love to kind of see and hear from you guys as well. We'll get started here in a few minutes.
I'll say I'm really excited about this because I've been consuming this report for quite some time. So if you're really fortunate to be with you guys and just talk about the future of influence.
I'm going to just say ditto.
I know. And don't spoil anything because obviously you're going to be giving your intros anyway. Man, we have people from all over DC, California, Romania. Wow, Chicago, Canada. Love this. Columbia, Dallas, Philly.
And it is always fun, whenever I'm like participating in a call and they're always like, hey, put in where you're from. Like, okay. But then it's fun to actually do see the scroll and know where everyone is.
Completely.
Mm-hmm.
Completely. Give it a few more minutes because people are still really just streaming in. But then I want to make sure we get started pretty soon because I have a feeling we will quickly utilize the time that we have. I want to maximize the conversation for sure. In London, Miami, Barcelona, one of my favorite cities in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Milan. Now I just want to travel. Okay, people are still coming in, but I think it's going to be good to go ahead and get started. We are so excited today to kick off a conversation around the future of influence. No pressure, just a small topic to talk about today. This is really drawing from our annual trends report that we release each year. We survey hundreds of marketers to really figure out what is now and next in influencer marketing. As we all know, this is a space that is growing, accelerating, and incredibly exciting. I think we're still so early in the development of influencer marketing, and the pace of change and acceleration is pretty mind-blowing. So we really want to dig in today to some of the trends that we found in the report, but more than that, have a conversation with our panelists, who I will give them an opportunity to introduce themselves in a second. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Britt Starr. I head up marketing here at Creator IQ. And we're really excited because we get to work with the best brands, agencies, and organizations in the world and really learn from them. And that's what we're here to do today, is facilitate a conversation and learn from these amazing panelists that we have. Let's actually kick off there and let you guys do quick intros. I'd love to hear about you, your companies, and then why you love influencer marketing, why you work in this space. Grace, you want to kick us off?
Sure. I guess ladies first, right? So I'm Grace New, and I'm the influencer marketing manager here at Quest Nutrition. So I'm representing my On a Quest hashtag. Check us out. So I've been at Quest for almost 9 years now. It's been a while, and my background is actually an entertainment publicist. I was doing film and television prior to joining Quest here over at Influencer Marketing, and I really enjoy influencer marketing. It kind of melds all the like my background of working with people, the creativity and everything, being able to write the briefs and producing some of these content with the creators that gets out there and being shown and seen. That's what's exciting to me. And I love that part and aspect of it. I'm from LA, born and raised. I'm a native. I like my sunshine, and coffee is what gets me out of bed in the morning, unless it's my cat pawing at me for food. But usually it's some coffee. My favorite Quest products are our frosted cookies and our cheese crackers. And I'm going to throw this over to you, Riley.
That was great. Great intro, setting the tone. My name is Riley Cronin, co-founder and president of 0 to 1. We're a performance creative and performance influencer agency. We like to work with category leading and disruptive brands. Some of our clients are like Lowe's, Instacart, Hexclad. But I think what we're really excited about is really the opportunity to drive profitable growth or performance working with influencers. So right now we find ourselves, or we're building our agency to really capitalize and build influencer affiliate communities at scale for our clients. So I'm super passionate about that. I think before starting 0 to 1, we're only 3 years old. But I was on the founding team of a company called Shipped. I'm representing Shipped with my merch today. We don't have any 0 to 1 merch yet. But I was on the founding team at Shipped, and I built out their influencer strategy. And we used influencer as one of our top growth markets to expand in all of our market launches, but also to support our key tentpole moments and biggest marketing campaigns. So that's my background. Love influencer. I'm also excited to just chat with Grace and get her point of view from the brand side, since I'm on the performance side. And I think what I'm also excited about is how big of a role creator content, influencer content is playing when it comes to driving results for brands, both big and small.
Love it. And perfect way to tee up, I think, why I'm so excited about this conversation. We do have diverse perspectives here. So we have brand representation, agency representation. We have Riley, who's really focused on performance outcomes today, and Grace, who's really focused on brand outcomes. And I think that gives us the perfect kind of intersection to have this conversation on and around. The survey that we put out every year is representative of all sides of that, right? It's 50-50 almost agency brand respondents. We'll talk a little bit about the outcomes that our survey respondents were finding success with, and dig into that with our panelists. But more than that too, we'll talk about some challenges and how we kind of tackle those each and every day. So hopefully you walk away with actual, tangible, actionable information. Also, please keep this conversational with us as well. Enter your questions into the chat. If we don't get to them right away or even on the webinar, we will follow up. So please let us know what's on your mind and how we can be helpful to you today. All right, digging in. So spoiler alert, we are going to talk about creator content, what's working and what's not. We here on this panel and at Creator IQ fully believe that creator content works better, and we're seeing that proven out year on year. It was definitely represented in the trends report and survey responses. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about platform trends, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, formats, where are our panelists finding success? What are they leaning into, placing their bets, et cetera? And then what's the state of investment? We're all here, I think, right time, right place. We know influencer marketing is on the rise, but what's the balance of that, right? Or we know investment is increasing, but what are some of the challenges that go along with that? So we'll dig into all of those and more in the next 30 to 45 minutes, learn a lot in the process. So creator content works better. Just teeing it up with a couple of notes from our survey. Really, I think where we see the market moving is that influencer marketing no longer ends with the post. It really starts with the post. Creator content is being used in more places for more things, and we're really seeing creators move to kind of the center of the marketing stack, or the center of marketing strategies. I think this is fascinating. It's creators as commerce partners, creators as content partners, creators as creative partners, creators as media partners. So really the opportunity to partner with creators in new and different ways will really set the stage, I think, for what we're talking about today. Looking at that a little more specifically, 66% of our brand respondents reported that creator content drove more ROI than traditional digital advertising. This was even larger for agencies. 82% of agencies and 83% of industry leaders said that influencer content, creator content drove more ROI. So I definitely want to talk a little bit more about that. I'm going to hit to the next slide because I think we can talk about what and where specifically we're seeing that. The most impactful influencer marketing activities, again, the thing that I see on this slide, and then I'll get to Grace and Riley to call out points that are specific to them. This is a pretty even split, right? A couple of years ago, we would have seen this #1 sponsored digital ads featuring creator content by far be the lion's share. And we do see that in terms of volume. So the activities that are most common still fall within this bucket. But in terms of impactful activities, we're seeing a much more even split across performance, brand outcomes, UGC, et cetera. So I'd love to turn it over. Riley, why don't you kick us off? Tell me a little bit about where you're seeing impact and how that's changing over time.
Yeah, would love to take that. So I think for us, I mentioned influencer affiliate as what we're most excited about, just in terms of like really marketing white space. Also when it comes to influencers, but how influencer affiliate works is the mechanics of it. It's really recruiting influencers at scale that are creating content for you on a performance basis and working with them in a way, or building an ownable community that drives a sizable amount of high margin revenue for your company. And I think the reason why, I think this slide does an amazing job of communicating and hitting all 3 points at why influencer affiliate is a big opportunity for brands. And I think it starts with sponsored content and doing that at scale. You know, you're talking about having hundreds or even thousands of influencers creating content for your company on a monthly basis. It's a powerful thing. You've got the EMV, the awareness, and just being able to reach that audience on borrowed trust and influence by partnering with these influencers. So that would be the first benefit of an influencer affiliate strategy. The second is going to be the affiliate marketing component of that. All of these influencers are getting paid on a performance basis, as opposed to like the traditional model of getting paid like an upfront fee or a retainer. You know, they're getting product, a commission structure, and then for some of those top creators, they'll get, you know, a budget or additional cash to create content. But because you have hundreds or thousands of influencers creating that sponsored content, but driving that traffic to an affiliate link, it has the ability to create drive a lot of revenue for the brand. So I'd say those would be the first two. And then the third, which we'd consider maybe the secondary benefit, but in and of itself is worth investing into an influencer affiliate community, is it builds a pipeline of content that you can use to support your paid social efforts. It also builds a roster of influencers that you can partner with to brief out specific content to support your paid social efforts. And I think Gary Vee calls it brand formance, but it's really leveraging insights from organic social and using those to support or fuel your paid social strategy. And we find that this is a better way to kind of take creative that's performing well organically in terms of sales, in terms of traffic, and use that content and extend it onto your paid social, into your paid social strategy or efforts. And we'll see that if a piece of content is performing well organically, there's a high likelihood that it's going to perform well on the paid side. And then with the roster of creators, what better way to partner with them and brief out content, because they have, you know, they know your product, they love your product, and it's just there's less risk involved by partnering with that community that knows and loves your brand compared to going to someone cold that may not know you or may not love your product, and that could hurt performance. So I think that's why we're excited about influencer affiliate.
I love that. That's actually the perfect, I think, handover to Grace, because you talked about really leaning into the creators and community that love you, that love your product, that know you. And I know that's an approach that you take pretty exclusively at Quest. Grace, can you talk about that a little bit?
You know, I'm glad you started kicking off the question with Riley, because he gave really good, deep insights and great context. And he's obviously, I'm on the brand side, so I feel like I don't get as much detail as he does, and offer that up to people to let them know some of the thinking behind it. So thank you, Riley, for setting that up, because it allows me to be a little bit more qualitative than quantitative. So on our side, I think Quest is a little unique because we really came up with social media, and we did not do traditional advertising until just recently. So we've always leaned in heavily with our organic Quest fans, who luckily would just be producing great content left and right. And so we were able to tap into them. We have a great social media manager. He talks to them and make sure he DMs, and, we have that communication, because that's, part of it is, that's how you build that loyalty. And when people like to, have that communication, the brand engagement aspect of it. So for us, we really leaned into the UGC early on. And that's exclusively pretty much what we did. So And that was on our own media. And, now we're boosting, we do whitelisting as well. And we are dabbling more into traditional media. And what we've noticed from our paid media team has told us is that the UGC does produce the content performed a lot better than just the static ads and stuff. So that, to Riley's point, creating all that, having a team that does that. We don't have an affiliate marketing team here. Kind of dabble a bit into that, but we haven't gone deep into it. This is something that we're still looking into exploring. But meanwhile, like I said, we do tap into our creators and have them create content that is definitely UGC, and we cross share.
Yep.
And I would say,
and I know there's, oh, go ahead, Riley.
Sorry, I was going to add one thing. And I think when we find ourselves building the most successful influencer affiliate communities, we're working with brands that have a Grace on the team, that have a massive, a brand focused influencer strategy and a long list of influencer relationships that they've been building over time. And we find that the influencer affiliate opportunity is a way for those, tried and true relationships to partner even deeper with the brand or find a way to further monetize their content outside of that retainer model. So I think, within influencer affiliate, like, it is performance focused, but it works best when you have a Grace on the team that has those direct relationships with big influencers, mass micros, and just giving the influencers more opportunities to create content for the brand.
Yep. Also, thank you for continuing to set up amazing segs. So I'll go to the next slide because I think it's really interesting to look at just that. Where is kind of UGC creator generated content being used, whether that's being created from your organic community, whether that's being created from your affiliate community. I think we know that having multi-dimensional programs, and again, leveraging and maximizing the use of this amazing content your creator partners are creating is something that brands are continuing to do at a rapid scale, even organizationally. I think we'll talk about that a little bit later, but this was specifically from our agency respondents. So Riley, I'll go to you on this, but we see the percentage of client ads that incorporate creator content increasing over time pretty dramatically. Is that something you've seen with your clients as well?
Yes, without a doubt. I would say going into 2022, the conversations that we were having with brands was selling them on why they should be leveraging creator content. I think in 2023, the conversation is sell us on why you're the best partner to develop develop that creative for us. So I think for us, we see that for every 21 ads that we create, and as an agency, we don't just do creator content. We produce static, motion graphic, like any ad creative type. But for every 21 ads that we produce, 15 are creator driven. So 71% of the ads that we develop for our clients are creator driven. That doesn't mean that 71% of their total ads that they're running are creator driven. I'd say for most of them, and it varies per client and industry, it's closer to 50-50, but it's still we've seen a dramatic swing into just about every brand that we talk to or work with is testing UGC creative or influencer driven creative. And there's less teeth pulling, as I'd call it, to get them to see influencer outside of that one-dimensional lens and see that, hey, you already have these influencers, you already have this content, you need to test that content on the paid side. So it is really cool to see how that's kind of transitioned over the past, just the past year.
And I'll say I see a couple of the questions are around, kind of smaller or more nascent programs. I think this is a great way to get started. Again, understanding who's out there that's already creating content about you, interacting and engaging with them, leveraging that content for your use, right? Start with owned and operated channels, like understand kind of what that content can do for you. Grace, I know you've mentioned, you work with a very small team and you're doing big things in the creator space. How do you work with your creator partners and kind of manage the challenges of having a small team doing a lot of things?
It's a lot of passion and coffee. But really, you really have to love what you do. That's part of it, right? And we have an organic group called the Quest Squad that, to your point, find out who your organic fans are, because they're the ones who are going to be the most passionate. They're the ones who are, when you watch like a football game or something, the people who are screaming with the face paint, and you're just like, That's awesome. You know, like we wish everyone, you know, was there cheering you on like a diehard fan. So we do have, so we manage a big group called the Quest Squad, and they're the ones who we source most of our organic content for. So it's like like almost like a fan club. So we love them. They're loyal. They've been around for a long time. And so that's how we first get most of the bulk of it. So I think anyone who's like starting out, they may want to just canvas out there, like put like a poll on their social media, on their IG or TikTok, and say, hey, you know, if you are an organic fan of ours, we'd love to hear from you. And then just put together a list and then email them and put together some sort of a program that could have like monthly challenges, keep like social challenges that keep them engaged. And you know, obviously you give them some sort of incentive, and then you can build that base. And from there, you can pull out the nuggets, because some people actually produce higher quality content than others. And you can identify those people. And from there, you can start bringing them on. And for us, we look for the quality, and with you know, the ability to whitelist or boost, we're able to take that. And even though they may not have like 100,000 followers, but the quality of content is good. So we're able to then utilize that and get that out there and showcase that. That's one way how we utilize our group.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
It absolutely, and then some. I think good advice for again, people that are getting started in the space. Also, even for our scaled programs. I mean, we work with clients that are, you know, activating tens of thousands of creators on a monthly basis, and hundreds of thousands, and they're still operating in that way, right? Like, find the people who love you and then nurture and build those relationships over time. We also see programs taking the approach Riley described, which is using your affiliate kind of layer as a vetting ground. What creators are producing great content? What creators are great sellers, right? I think aligning your strategy and discovery around the outcomes you're looking to drive is incredibly important, especially as we move towards more multidimensional programs, which is what we're seeing. Like, we see less and less brands strictly running, you know, brand-based or strictly running performance-based programs. It really is a combination of all of those. So I think good advice from both of you. Moving into platform trends, and I see a bunch of questions in the chat that we'll get back to, especially around investments, justification on increasing investment. That's our third section. So Instagram versus TikTok. Always, I think the question that we hear from clients. TikTok is the bright, shiny object. It's growing at a rapid pace. It's actually, even if we look at our own data, like campaign data in our platform, we see campaigns that leverage, that use TikTok growing at a triple-digit rate, over 200% year on year. But Instagram really is still the lion's share, and we see that in our survey response as well. We see Instagram being named as the most integral social media platform, as the platform that delivers the most ROI. I'd love to start there and talk about the role that Instagram plays for you, and again, what you're seeing in terms of impact, but also what role format plays in that as well.
Want me to go first?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Yeah, I think for us, when it comes to, there's two ways to think about this. On the organic side, when we're building these influencer affiliate communities, Instagram does reign king. I think there's a couple of reasons for that. I think we'll get to this on the next slide, so I don't want to get too ahead of my skis. But I think for us, the reason why Instagram is key and we focus most of our effort there is because we focus on story content, and it's the most direct response form of content. And when it comes to building a performance channel, you want to have the least amount of friction possible for the end consumer when they are consuming content. You want to be able to capitalize on their intention to buy your product or have interest in your product. So with Instagram and Instagram stories in particular, it enables that process the most seamlessly. And then when it comes to budget, because budget is an important thing here, we find that Instagram story content is going to be the cheapest content placement type for the most consistent return. I think with Instagram Reels and TikTok style content, you could take bigger swings and you have the ability to go viral and reach a broader audience. But with story content, it's more consistent. We like to focus on creators that have at least a 10% engagement rate and have a 10% engagement rate on Instagram stories. So if they have 100,000 followers, they're receiving at least 10,000 views per story. And that gives us the consistency that we need to really, make the investment into Instagram as a channel, and see the consistent results that we're looking for, as opposed to maybe taking bigger swings on Reels and TikTok style content.
Love that. Grace, what about you? What channels are you investing in the most, and where are you seeing the most return?
Yeah, I want to first point out that with where Riley is that he's focusing more on the lower part of the funnel, and where luckily I'm focusing more on the upper part of the funnel. So where my answer is going to be slightly different than his. So because of that, and I'm looking to create content where it could be shared across our multiple teams here, between our own channels, the boosting, whitelisting, as well as the our paid media team, for paid ads. So Instagram is great because if I need that static content, like the static image, so I could get that to do carousels. The videos, obviously, the reels do well too. We utilize that. And then with TikTok, I think it also looks like between TikTok and Instagram, the user case is a little different. So with TikTok, I know people want to be entertained more, right? So they're scrolling, they want to like content that captures them. They want to be like told a little bit of a story, like, the entertainment. Whereas Instagram, I feel like you might go there a little bit deeper, look at something. I get tricked all the time. Every time I go on Instagram, I end up buying something. I don't know what happens, right? The next morning I wake up and I'm like, oh my God, was I drunk? Like, I don't know what happened. I just bought something else. Okay. Instagram, so I'm like, for me, Instagram is the one that gets me to buy. TikTok, I just recently bought something from there, so we'll see how that one goes. But so we do split our time between both. It depends on what our outcomes are. And for us, like, since we're more at the upper funnel, we just want to see what kind of content where I could, like, again, cross use and do a more broader reach.
Yep, I love that. So looking specifically, we haven't talked about YouTube. We've talked historically a lot about the benefits of long form content. Obviously, the last couple of years, short form content has reigned king. Curious if you're still seeing that trend, and if there is a role for long form content in your programs or your client programs. And then very specifically, what about YouTube Shorts? Grace, you want to kick us off there?
Yeah, I start with that. We don't really do that much the long form content. We definitely focus on the shorter, and we haven't quite dabbled as much into YouTube Shorts as we would like to. We do plan on that, is like on a roadmap for the next year, but we definitely are more just creating like the short form.
Yeah, Riley, what about you? Any role for long form content?
Yes, I think it depends on the client goals. Yeah, the reason why we focus on Instagram stories is because you're going to see the speed to result is going to be much faster. But if you're in a space where there's a lot of competition and you're like the category leader or number 2 or number 3, and you have a high consideration product, I think YouTube and long form content is great for that. And because of how searchable content is on YouTube and it lives forever, like, there is a better long tail opportunity for that long form content that you can't get with any other platform. So there's definitely a place for it. I think a blended strategy is always best when it comes to influencer. I know we focus on Instagram, but it doesn't mean that, like, we still test into other channels depending on the client. But I think YouTube is great. And Therabody was one of our clients for a really long time. And, there's quite a bit of competition there. So a big part of our strategy was having influencers do very in-depth review, breaking down the science and the benefits of their product compared to Hyperice or some of the other competitors, which saw some good results. So yeah, YouTube is great.
Yeah, agreed. We love YouTube as well. Curious, Grace, you mentioned YouTube Shorts being on your roadmap for the year. I'm curious, how do you set that roadmap? When do you decide how to place new bets? What allows you to kind of explore new territories like that? And how do you make that decision?
Yeah, so the way how we look at it, we have IG and TikTok. What have we created? What are we doing there? Do we feel comfortable with what we have already set up? And then we look at how much extra time do we have and how much extra budget we may have. And because we always have like our wish list of things that we want to dabble and try A/B testing. And we like to test and learn here, a lot of testing. And then so that's why that's how we figure it out, you know, based on what we hear, like obviously with your reports too, we see these and then we're like, well, maybe we should like actually do it this time. So we definitely rely on like your reports too.
I love that. Your check is in the mail. Don't worry. This is just from the creator side. Again, we're seeing kind of the same trends in terms of where creators are spending their time. But again, this is changing rapidly. I think the dynamics at play are really interesting. So even, you know, when we look on the earned side at a metric like EMV, the percentage of EMV that's being driven by TikTok is really growing at a surprising rate. And so I do think we're going to see in the next, you know, year, some real changes as it comes to the role of the platforms, the channels, both from the creator side, but also how brands are really activating across those channels with their creator communities.
I'm also excited to see Snapchat. I think Snapchat.
Yeah, that's such a good point.
Here.
Do you feel like it's making a resurgence? I feel like we've heard and seen more things from it this past year than we have in the last few.
I do. I think I don't know enough about it to have that great of a prediction there, but I do see more influencers creating content there more consistently, which is always a good sign. So I think, yeah, I'll be interested to see how that plays out.
Love it. I think we covered all of these and we have a big section that actually aligns with a ton of the questions. So I'm going to jump into the state of investment. We've talked about this already, but creator relationships are incredibly important. We cannot do what we do without healthy, mutually beneficial creator relationships. And what we see from creators and brands is that really we're having to invest in those relationships in new ways over time. I think the interesting things to me here are, yes, I think we see payments to creators increasing over time. Creators they run their own business. They're business owners. And, you know, just like the rest of us, they need to create a business model for themselves that keeps the lights on, achieves growth, you know, helps them be successful over time. So I do think that's interesting. I know there are, you know, more than one way, more than 5 ways to compensate creators. So would love to kind of talk about that. But also, and I think this is even more interesting, is the change in recurring partnerships with creators. So investing in tenured relationships, long-term relationships, right? Having creators be a part of your program, your brand family, be an advocate for you over time. We're really seeing brands start to invest in that more than ever before. And it's changing the way contracts are written. It's changing the expectations we have on our creator partners. But also it's really creating these, again, mutually beneficial relationships. So starting with the first, I'd love to hear about the ways you compensate creators. Obviously, Riley, this might be a fairly straightforward answer from your perspective. So I'll start with you, and then Grace, I'd love to hear about how you think about adding value to your creator community.
So it depends on the creator, like their creative ability, their size, and maybe their experience or expertise selling in a specific like vertical. But for us, it's a mix of product gifting. Like in order for an influencer to sell something successfully, they have to have tried the product and love it. It's a big component. So product gifting or seeding, commission structure. We like to tier those things so that, you know, because not every influencer is created equal, we'll usually have a base commission structure, let's say 10% for anybody that opts into the community. But if they hit a certain benchmark, or if they have a certain audience size or engagement rate, or we consider them a high quality creator, we'll give them a richer commission structure so that they're further incentivized to create more content and drive traffic. And then cash. I think we find ourselves operating like on blended models all the time, where we're doing all three for the right influencers. I think on that front, the best way for us to do that is to kind of set a KPI for an influencer to hit. And if they hit that, that would unlock further incentives or cash or budget. I think when it comes to a performance-focused channel, it's really important to find new ways to incentivize and take care of your creators, because retention is so important. There's nothing worse than kind of being on a hamster wheel where you're recruiting influencers into your program and they churn every single month and you never hit traction. So incentivizing creators is really important, especially if you want to set them up to drive revenue for your brand.
Yeah, for us, for compensating creators, is basically either gifting, we send product and paying them with cash. We don't have, like I said, a affiliate program or anything like that, so they're not able to produce extra income on the side. So I think ours is a little bit straightforward. And I just want to build a little bit on that too. We do a lot of we look at new people because we're always trying to diversify our portfolio and bring new faces in, and also different walks of life, because we want to make sure that whoever is creating content for us is relatable to the audience and to other people. So we like to show that diversity. And also we've been burned a few times with certain people. So that's something, so we're a little tentative of doing too long of a contract with anyone. So right now, like I said, we try to test them out. If we do like them, we want to continue using them. But like I said, it's also hard to, because the creators on their end, there's so many of them out there that some of them, when you test them out, they don't perform as well as you would hope them to perform or respond.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Really entering a two-way relationship with your eyes open, really understanding again what you're trying to get out of it, and if you're finding the right partnership on both sides is incredibly important. We do see that influencer retention is one of the strongest leading indicators for sustained success over time. Again, it's just like any of our own businesses. If we're constantly filling a leaky bucket, you can only grow so much. So really patching those holes where it counts, investing and nurturing those relationships over time that are really adding that value back to your brand. And again, I love, Riley, the way you talked about, for the right influencers, adding that, like those dimensional layers of value compensation so that they're realizing increased value with the relationship over time as well.
Yeah. And then Britt, I also want to throw in, that's why having a platform partner is really important as well, because they help track that for us.
Yeah, love that. Again, your check is in the mail. Okay, we had a lot of questions about this, and we know that this continues to be kind of a point of tension. Brands actually and agencies are seeing kind of increased dedicated personnel, resources. We see investments increasing. Again, in general. However, we also hear, which we'll get into in the next slides, that it's not enough, right? I think there are more demands than ever before on our influencer programs. On the brand side specifically, we see a lot from our influencer teams who used to be, 5 years ago, kind of sitting on their own in a silo. Now, again, they're at the center, like the paid team's knocking on their door, asking for content for assets. The owned and operated team is knocking on their door, asking for things. And so we definitely are kind of in this place where we're seeing more, but it's not enough. How do you manage that tension? And then very specifically, I want to talk, Grace, with you about managing a program entirely in-house. And then Riley, where you feel like agency partnerships can be the most impactful.
Great.
Okay, I'll kick this one off. Sadly, we have no increase in personnel, even though I keep knocking on our leadership doors to ask for more. This is where I begin to think that I might be doing too good of a job, where they think I don't need help. So I'm definitely in the remain constant and no additional increase, which is, it's okay. You don't need to put my check in the mail. I got this is where we rely on our platform partners, because that is someplace I can go. I'm not allowed to have headcount, but I am allowed to look for external resources, such as someone like Riley or someone like you that could help me to manage everything.
Yeah, I love that. So finding kind of efficiencies. I know that when we spoke earlier, you also mentioned kind of investing in, automation that could come from a platform partner like us, but how you can rely on tools, automation to really increase your efficiency, right? Help do the things that can be automated so that you can focus on the human side of the business?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be like what's helpful, like the report generation and also like pulling in the content so that way we could identify which ones we actually do want to showcase in our own internal reports as well. And also share with our other cross-platform teams so they could utilize that. But definitely that's what I'm saying, like where having an outside agency definitely is beneficial for us and that we could oversee and help us do the heavy lifting there.
Yep. Riley, what about for you? Where do you see kind of your partnership with your brand clients kind of augmenting their in-house programs, which I know you've mentioned a couple of times? It tends to be a partnership between the two.
Yeah, it depends on the client. I think for us, traditionally, influencer has been perceived as more of a brand focus tactic. So I think if we are working with influencer teams, they're often small and we're taking on a pretty big role. It's more of an end-to-end role. But I think the thing that's most consistent, at least currently, is because teams are becoming more open to seeing influencer as a performance channel, we're often not reporting into or working with an internal influencer person. We're actually working with an affiliate marketing lead or a growth marketing lead or a CMO. So I think that's been something that's changed a lot over the last year, is that we find ourselves most often working with someone on the growth side of the house that doesn't necessarily have an influencer marketing background. And also in that case, influencer is usually a foreign thing to them, especially from a performance perspective. So we may have one internal partner, but we find ourselves handling most of the execution.
That's very interesting. I think we got a question earlier around kind of justification and how you really help to sell this in, get buy-in alignment from senior leadership. So I'd love to touch on that a little bit. Like you mentioned, you're working directly with the CMOs outside of an influencer marketing owner in-house. What kind of education are you doing at that level? Again, I know you're coming at it with a performance lens, but I would imagine there's some education kind of on the space at large as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of education, and we find ourselves actually building models to project both influencers that we recruit, revenue generated from the program, and then CAC and ROAS from the program as well. So the education is usually not a difficult thing. We find ourselves kind of singing a song that they are used to hearing, which is like the current state of paid social has become very difficult since the launch of iOS 14.5, and customer acquisition costs have raised significantly. And I think because of that, it has shown brands that have been over-reliant on paid social as their main revenue-driving tactic, that they need to diversify and look for other channels that have the ability to drive higher margin revenue. So for us, the education is around the benefits of building an owned community compared to being dependent on a rent-to-own channel like Facebook, where you put $1 in to reach a certain amount of people, you hope to get $1 out. The more that you spend into the Facebook machine, you hope to increase that spend more efficiently over time. So the amount of money you're making from customers is more than the money that you're putting in. But because of that difficulty, it creates the opportunity, or it just shows that there's a lot of value to be had from an owned community of influencers that are kind of taking a many to many approach, where they have this audience that they've built. And when you're talking about hundreds or thousands of influencers that are selling your product or service to their audience, I think there's a network effect to that. And oftentimes, because we're only paying for the conversion out of the gate, you're set up for it to be a higher margin marketing tactic. So for us, it's just getting them to see the benefits of that. And then the secondary benefit of this becomes a pipeline of creative that will improve your performance on your paid social side.
Yep. I love that. That's a story that we're also trying to tell with our clients and really kind of put the rubber to the road in terms of the accountability around that and measurement of that is that when you think of something like return on creator spend, right? It's not just about the return on that individual post or ad. It's like, what did you do with that content? Where else was it used? Like you are able to maximize and optimize in so many different ways that we've really, I think as an industry, we still need to catch up to how we're actually capturing that full picture and allowing people to understand the impact of it. So I love that you kind of hit on all of those.
Mhm.
I also, the network effect came to mind. And Grace, I would imagine you see this a lot in kind of your top of funnel brand outcome efforts. We see that's exactly what happens. That is the benefit of the creator community. It is, we've done kind of conversation mapping over the past couple of years where you see it's like a contagion map, right? Like one influencer talks about a brand and then a few people around them talk about that brand and then a few people talk, and it's like grassroots motion. And that's really whether you're, again, activating as a paid strategy or as an organic strategy, that's the effect that you see. It's not one and done with the post. Do you see the same thing, Grace, like some accelerated momentum and then also the ability, again, to get more out of any individual creator relationship or piece of content?
That's a good question. We definitely have certain content that has more legs than others, and that does get passed around a lot. We are trying to create more like that. Like I said, it's just more recently we have gone to the paid model of having like paying the creators to create content for us, because we had pretty much exclusively relied on the Quest Squad for many years to create stuff. But then, like I said, since the landscape has changed a bit, like organic reach isn't what it used to be, as we all know. So we did have to like pivot a little bit and then funnel some more investments into the more paid side. So that is something that we're just checking on. And then we also have our social media manager who helps us with the social listening aspect to see what's out there. Whenever we had activated the Quest Squad around a launch, we could see that the pie got bigger, because they're all posting about it, because that big bomb effect, right? It's like, it's your point. And whenever we do activate, then during the more quiet times, we see that decrease. So there is that contagion effect. And so we're trying to figure out a way to have it more always on than normal.
Yep. I love that. We also see very strong correlations, and we've done work with some of our other clients, like Estee Lauder companies, that really connect, again, even the organic conversation that's happening around your brand to desirability metrics like Google searches, right? I mean, it really is. If you think about it, it's scaled word of mouth. And so if people are talking about you, more people want to learn about you, and it really does snowball over time. What are you reporting up, Grace, to your leadership team from your programs? What metrics are you using, again, more from the kind of the brand side?
Again, since luckily I get to focus on the upper funnel, so it's just basically a lot of impressions, engagement rates, the EMV, is the reach. So that we don't have that much focus on the CPMs and the CPE. We do look at that for sure, because we need to know how our dollars are working for us. But like I said, fortunately for me, with our leadership, as long as we could showcase, we have high quality content that they could see, that we could share with our other teams in our company. And also solid impressions. We benchmark against ourselves mainly, and then also social listening, just see where we are in comparison with the competitors. So being able to see what and where we fall on that chart helps out.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, really quickly, last two slides, and then we can kind of get to a couple of the questions. Grace, this is a brand specific slide. What do you think the top roadblock for you today is?
Mine would definitely be bandwidth and needing extra help, right? That's a big challenge. There's only so many hours in a day, and there's only so much energy you have to dedicate, especially when you're wearing multiple hats and having to juggle. So definitely for sure, that's part of it. Budgets for us have been flat. I would like to have a bigger budget so I could activate, more mega influencers. That'd be awesome, to test that out. So, but definitely personnel first, budget second. And then obviously there's always difficulty measuring influencer performance. I think because I think that really goes down to what your leadership is looking for. What's important to them, because if ROAS is important to them, then you have to report things differently. If impressions are important to them, then there's there's ways to get there, like through boosting. So I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I mean, and as you can see, that's I think a pretty common set
Yeah.
of challenges. I do think, especially on the kind of top of funnel brand side, we see a lot of success with our clients really being able to measure their share of influence. So you talked about measuring yourself against competitors in social listening, but the ability to do that even within the creator space. Where do you rank against your competitors? What is your share of influence within that community or your category or your set of competitors? And then how do you measure your progress over time? That has been a tactic that's been very successful for our brand clients in helping them to showcase progress, and everybody likes a good challenge. So as you see yourself gain in the share of influence that you can garner relative to your competitors, you're really able to show again, the kind of leading indicator or long tail of what you'll be able to accomplish as a brand. Riley, I'm going to hand it over to you. Top roadblocks for you today as an agency.
I think, resources and bandwidth is up there, at least on the internal team side. I'd say for us, when it comes to performance, it's just getting them to take influencer as a serious performance driving opportunity. Again, I talked about the education that needs to happen. And I feel like the roadblock there is just spending the time, investing the time to get them there, to see it as a viable opportunity before making the jump. Because, it's compelling of a case that we can make. It's still foreign. It's still new to them. I think there's a sentiment around influencer being just brand focused or organic social focused. So it's just that hurdle of getting them to see the opportunity with influencers from a performance perspective.
Yep, absolutely. Have you had success telling both sides of that story? Because again, I think the beauty of our conversation today has really been that it's a yes and conversation. So have you been able to kind of to successfully capture that? Have you been able to do case studies with your clients that really show, again, that kind of full picture impact that your programs are running?
Yes. So it depends on who we're talking to, right? We want to cater our message depending on who we're selling our services into. So if we're talking to an affiliate marketer, we're not talking about EMV at all. It is pure ROAS or a CAC target. It's about how this community can help them achieve their goals that they're looking to hit from a performance perspective. If we're talking to an influencer marketer that is, both managing a brand strategy, but also is leveraging that content to support the paid side, then we're going to tell both sides of that, show both sides of the coin, right? It's going to be revenue and performance. It's going to be an ownable community that can support any of your marketing initiatives, tentpole moments, campaigns. Like they become an army that's ready to be deployed against any of your, marketing focuses. They also become an opportunity for you to get R&D and insights, and like there's just so much value in the community side. So I think we take that approach and then definitely show the impact on EMV. Regardless of how we sell it, though, we always track all of the metrics and show that data story to all of our clients. But again, if they're performance focused, we find most often they aren't caring so much about awareness, impressions, engagements, and EMV. It's mostly like, how is this impacting our bottom line? Like how much revenue is this generating like as a percent of GMV? So I think it just depends on who we're selling it to.
Yep, makes sense based on outcome. I think we touched on a lot of this. I know there are questions around kind of pay scales. How do you know what to pay creators? How do you identify the right creators up front? That is definitely something that we can follow up on. I know that it kind of varies wildly, unless either of you have kind of a quick answer for that. The trends report does include a section on creator payments and expectations from the creator side. So please take a look at the report and use that as a benchmark. Riley, you talked about kind of multidimensional payment compensation and commission structures. Are there good kind of standards, benchmarks? Like, what do you use to start that?
It depends on the brand and their economics, like how they value a customer, LTV of a customer. If they're an e-com product, like what are the landed costs for that product? What are their COGS? So it depends. Like for us, we want to provide or create the richest offer strategy or offer structure that we can, so that we can incentivize the right behavior, which is as much content as possible, which would lead into performance. So there's not a gold standard for us. Like we'll model out program success while starting with their economics as a business, and then also what their marketing metrics look like in terms of CAC, LTV, ROAS, currently conversion on a product page. It really starts there, and understanding like how much margin do we have to play with, so that we can create a channel or create this in a way that it can become a very profitable channel for them while still making financial sense.
Yep. Makes sense. Again, I think we talk about this a lot too. It's so brand specific.
Yeah.
It has to be it's brand specific, it's outcome specific, even from creator discovery. Like a great creator for Quest would not be a great creator for Lowe's necessarily. It could be, but you have to, approach it from a very like brand specific standpoint.
Yeah. And we like to say, like, if a brand is seeing like a CAC of $70, well, we're looking to beat that regardless. So that usually tells us how much up to $70 we're willing to pay a creator to drive a conversion for us. So it's high level. I wish I could give a better answer, but if people have questions around that, I'm happy to like give more of a specific example for them if they're wondering from their own personal use case.
I'll just jump in really quickly here too. I've been trying to figure out what the magic formula is. And so far I haven't found it, but I do rely on, what I hear out there, what people are paying, and then also start with the budget, like how much do you have and how can you lean into it? And there's a lot of like testing, like I'll try out like one set, because our campaigns have a set fee. So I'll try that out, and it depends on what the responses are and what kind of content those creators create. Gives me an idea of whether, hey, that sounds good, I can keep it here, or maybe I need to bump it up for the next campaign to get different quality.
Yep. I love that. Again, I think the key takeaway I'd add on here is that there's kind of no single silver bullet. You have to like test and learn and know what works for you, and you do that by doing. So I think, here we talked about it a lot today. I think key takeaways from the original conversation really were, we talked about these best programs are multidimensional, right? They take many shapes, many forms. Even if you're approaching them from a performance lens, there are brand halo effects and vice versa. Content, I put creator generated content here on purpose versus UGC. I think the rise of creator generated content is going to be something that we just continue to see, kind of return back exponentially over the next year as brands get more sophisticated about how to leverage that and create those partnerships. We talked about investment being on the rise, but obviously challenges still persist, right? We're all trying to kind of justify continued increased investment, team and resource allocation, operational structure, organizational structure to support this. A lot of questions still to be answered. And then we talked about Instagram still reigning, TikTok catching up, important role of YouTube. What would you add here as a key takeaway that you'd like to leave for the audience today?
I think for me, it's kind of knowing what your objectives are, what your end results, like what are you trying to back into, and then work backwards from there. Because that would dictate what kind of strategy, the budget, what you need to report on. I think that helped out a lot, like knowing what your end result is.
Absolutely. Riley, what about you?
That's a good question. I think to kind of sum this up, I would say to look at influencer holistically, like always find ways to get as much value out of each piece of content that's created. I know multidimensional is mentioned here, and you mentioned not a silver bullet approach. We say that a lot. Like the benefit of influencer creator generated content is it's a lead bullets approach. There is no silver bullet in marketing today. So I would just find ways to maximize creative and then also relationships with influencers. It's important to continue to invest in your community and find ways to create opportunities for them to work with you on a deeper fashion and reward them for the value that they're driving for your business. And if you have happy influencers, it's going to translate well into the content and you're going to see that reflected in the performance. So at the end of the day, like the technology is great, resources are great, but it is relationship management at scale. And I think successful influencer starts with building good relationships, regardless if it's brand focused or performance focused.
And then one more thing, authenticity. I know it's an overused word, but that's the first thing I always look for. Like I always ask when someone pitches me, like, is this person an authentic Quest fan, organic Quest user? Like, for me, I'll take a second look at someone because they will always produce better content than someone who's just looking to make that extra buck.
Yep. I love that. Thank you both so much for being here. Thank everyone for being here to have this conversation with us. I know there were so many questions in the chat that we did not get to, so we will do our best to follow up. That will come in the form of a follow-up. We'll likely kind of pull together some of the commonly asked questions into a written format and send it back out to attendees, so you will get good answers. Also, please reach out to us, download our trends report. There are a ton more insights, brand spotlights, and amazing information for you to take home with you and make actionable in your own program. So thank you for joining us today. Riley, Grace, your thoughts, wisdom, advice, very appreciated. More to come.
Thanks, Brittany. Thanks, Grace.
Great, thanks. Thank you.
All right,
Thanks to both.
guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.